What's good, ladies and gents? Welcome to the MKO Pugilism Boxing channel, where we talk all things boxing. Remember to like, subscribe, hit the bell notification, put it on all so you get notified of all the latest content as and when it drops on the channel. So without further ado, let's get into this. So we're going to talk about the super fight, a fight that I've been looking forward to for quite a while now, and that is Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence Jr. Now, this is a super fight at welterweight. This is for undisputed at welterweight. All four belts on the line: WBC, WBA, WBO, IBF, all on the line. And it's about who is the better man between Spence and Crawford. This is a fight that could have happened a number of years ago. Didn't happen then. Now both of these guys, they're both 35 years old, so they're both they're both closer to the end of their careers than the beginning, and this is the sort of twilight stage. But both men are still looking pretty much in peak condition. There's not really that much slippage to speak of when it comes to these guys, and in terms of a pick, I'm leaning towards Terrence Crawford for me, because Spence is a guy that's, fantastic fighter, and what I admire about him a lot is his engine. He's able to go through fights and he actually sort of gets stronger, and he ups the pace as the fight goes on, does Errol Spence Jr. And Terrence Crawford, he's also a guy that can, fight well for 12 rounds. He's a guy that's KO'd everybody that he's fought as a welterweight. He's taken everybody out. And he's a guy that's very versatile in the ring. And for me, if we're going to talk about, one aspect that I think is going to tip one of these guys over the edge of, for me, it's the versatility of Terrence Crawford and, the destructive power of Terrence Crawford. I mean, Errol Spence, he does punch very hard himself, but many people will note that when he fought Mikey Garcia, who's a much lighter guy, he didn't get Mikey Garcia out of there. Mikey Garcia, he's a tough guy, but again, he's a smaller guy, was coming up from 140. Spence wasn't able to get him out of there, and I think Spence's power is more kind of accumulative. He's not like a guy that just knocks you out with one shot. He's a guy that gives you an accumulative beating and then takes you out later in the fight. So I think Crawford, he's definitely is a fighter that's very instinctive in what he does. I think a lot of what Spence does is quite textbook, whereas what Crawford does in the ring is very instinctive. So he does a lot of things right, textbook, how you're supposed to box, but he also does a lot of instinctive things. He also does things which you can't really teach or you can't really train people to do. Just the right punch at the right time. And I think Crawford has got like excellent timing. I think the switch hitting of Crawford is going to bother Spence, and it's a fight where I think Spence will have a lot of his success early in the fight. I think, when the first couple of rounds, I believe Spence is going to probably start the faster of the two guys, and I think Crawford is more going to be sort of having a look at Errol Spence in the early rounds. And my pick is for Crawford to, as the fight goes on, to begin to figure out Errol Spence and to begin to sort of pick holes in his defense. And I just think he's got those more tools, that switch into southpaw at a moment's notice. And I think he's kind of got the skills to bamboozle Errol Spence. And in many of Crawford's fights, even when he had his struggles against guys like Gamboa back in the days, he was able to just sort of switch stance. I think he went from lefty to righty, and then he was able to just switch those stances in the middle of a fight and just break a man down, knock a man out. And I just think when it comes down to it, this is going to be a war of attrition, and I just see Terrence Crawford as the more sort of cerebral guy, the guy with more tools. I mean, Spence is brilliant, but what he does compared to what well, I keep mixing them up. What Spence does compared to what Crawford does, I believe that what Spence's game is a bit more predictable in terms of what he does. He throws a very good jab, and he jabs your head off, and he sort of breaks you down eventually behind that southpaw stance. And what he tends to do is sort of just keep stepping up the pace, and you can't keep up with him, you're done. He finishes you, you know. And certain of his fights, like the sort of Brook fight, showed that he can be outboxed and stuff, but he's a guy that just keeps coming on, keeps getting stronger and stronger and stronger. But in terms of what he actually does, he goes downstairs to the body, and he just keeps sort of upping the offense, upping the pace until he breaks his opponent down, like what he did with your Dennis Ugas. But I think someone like Crawford is going to be a lot harder to sort of figure out, because Crawford can, you know, I think out of the two of them, Crawford is just that, as I've used that word before, versatile. He's a lot more versatile, and I think if he gets into a crisis, Crawford that is, he's able to just sort of switch things up, switch the game. He can instinctively do things in the fight that even if it's getting hard, he can just change what he's doing and sort of outbox his opponent if he gets hurt, and he can sort of put it on you. He can come forward, he can go get you, as Teddy Atlas says. And I just think because of the fact that Terrence Crawford has got more tools in his toolbox, he's going to be the victor in this fight, because I think he's going to be able to clock on to what Errol Spence is doing, and he's going to be able to combat it rather easily, whereas I don't think Errol Spence has that same versatility to kind of change things if something goes wrong. I don't think he has that same versatility that Terrence Crawford does. And of course, we know Crawford is a very good puncher as well at this weight. You know, he's been taking guys out as soon as he got to welterweight, and that's what he's been doing. So for me, I think due to his versatility and his instinctive fighting style, for me the pick is Terrence Crawford. And I think the fight will be close. I think the fight will be competitive. But for me, Terrence Crawford will be the victor. I'm saying it's most likely going to be on a points decision, but I wouldn't be surprised if Terrence Crawford stopped Errol Spence Jr., because I think he's going to read his patterns, he's going to clock onto his patterns, and he's going to counter him, and he's going to most probably hurt him. And, you know, who knows? Crawford might even get hurt himself, because Spence is no slouch either. But that's just my pick, Terrence Crawford, for this Saturday. Let me know what you think about this. Do you perhaps differ with me? Do you think Errol Spence is going to do it? Or do you agree with myself and the bookies that Terrence Crawford is the clear favourite and Terrence Crawford is going to do a demolition job? So let me know what you think. And until next time, this is MKO Pugilism over and out. Catch you on the next one.